Pisces, I need to share something absolutely profound that came through in your reading today. I was shuffling the cards and asking about someone from your past, and the energy that came through was so intense I literally had to put the deck down for a moment. The universe is showing me someone who carries such deep regret about how things ended with you, and honestly, what I'm seeing here is going to completely change how you understand this entire situation. I pulled 10 cards for you today, and each one tells a piece of this story that I know many of you have been waiting to hear. This person, whoever they are in your life, they have never recovered from losing you. And I mean never. The cards are showing me layers of regret so deep that it's become the defining experience of their emotional life. Let me start with the first card that practically jumped out of the deck when I asked about their true feelings. The Four of Pentacles appeared with such force, and this card is telling me everything about how this person has been holding on to you energetically. See, the Four of Pentacles represents someone who is clinging, grasping, unable to let go of what they value most. In this context, it's showing me that this person has been emotionally hoarding every memory of you, every moment you shared, every feeling you gave them. They are sitting on these memories like someone guarding treasure. But here's what's so tragic about this energy. The Four of Pentacles also represents restriction and limitation. By holding on to you so tightly in their mind and heart, they've actually imprisoned themselves. They cannot move forward. They cannot fully invest in anyone new because they are using all their emotional energy to keep you close in the only way they know how, through memories and regret. What's coming through so clearly is that this person made a choice. Probably a really stupid choice, if I'm being honest, and now they're living in the consequences of that decision every single day. The Four of Pentacles is showing me someone who wakes up every morning and the first thought that enters their mind is you. Not their current situation, not their responsibilities, but the weight of what they lost when they lost you. I'm getting chills because the card is also showing me that they've built their entire emotional security around the hope of somehow getting you back. Even if they're with someone else, even if they've tried to move on, there's this part of them that is constantly calculating, constantly wondering if there's still a chance. The Four of Pentacles energy is so heavy here because they're carrying this burden of knowing they had something incredible, and they let it slip away. The second card that appeared is the Hierophant, and oh my goodness, this is where the story gets even more intense. The Hierophant represents tradition, commitment, and the kind of love that's supposed to last forever. What I'm seeing here is that this person now realizes you were their person for marriage, for building a life together, for all the traditional milestones they thought they didn't want or weren't ready for. The Hierophant is showing me someone who has had a complete spiritual awakening about what you represented in their life. You weren't just a relationship to them, you were their path to becoming the person they were meant to be. And the regret here is so deep because the Hierophant energy is about recognizing sacred connections. And they know now that what you had was sacred. This card is telling me that they've probably had conversations with friends, family, maybe even therapists, where they keep coming back to you as the standard. Every relationship they've tried since you has been measured against what they had with you, and nothing, absolutely nothing, has come close. The Hierophant represents the teacher, and you taught them what real love could feel like, what partnership actually meant, what it was like to have someone truly see them. What's breaking my heart as I look at this card is that the Hierophant also represents conventional wisdom and learning from experience. They've learned the hard way that you can't replace a soul connection. They've learned that attraction isn't love, that convenience isn't compatibility, that settling for less than what you had together is a form of self-torture. I'm seeing them in moments of quiet reflection, maybe late at night or early in the morning when their defenses are down, and they're just overwhelmed by the recognition of what they gave up. The Hierophant shows me someone who now understands the value of what you brought to their life, not just romantically, but spiritually, emotionally, as a catalyst for their growth. The Ten of Wands came through next, and this card is absolutely loaded with the weight they're carrying. The Ten of Wands represents burden, overwhelming responsibility, and being weighed down by the consequences of your choices. This person is carrying the emotional equivalent of 10 heavy staffs, and every single one of them is connected to their regret about you. What's so powerful about this card in your reading is that it shows me someone who has tried to convince themselves they made the right choice, tried to rationalize their decision to walk away or let you go. But the weight of that lie has become unbearable. The Ten of Wands energy is showing me someone who is exhausted from pretending they're okay without you. This card represents the burden of unfinished emotional business, and oh, Pisces, they have so much unfinished business with you. Every conversation they never had, every apology they never gave, every declaration of love they held back, it's all piling up like those heavy wands in the card. They're walking through their life carrying this enormous emotional load, and it's affecting everything they do. I'm seeing them struggling to be present in their current circumstances because they're always carrying this weight from the past. The Ten of Wands shows me someone who might look successful or put together on the outside, but internally, they're dealing with this constant strain of knowing they made a mistake that changed the entire trajectory of their life. What's really getting to me about this card is that it also represents being close to the end of a difficult cycle. The figure in the Ten of Wands is almost at their destination, but they're struggling under the weight they're carrying. This tells me that this person's period of regret and self-punishment is reaching a climax. They can't carry this burden much longer without doing something about it. The Ace of Pentacles appeared with such beautiful energy, and this card is showing me new beginnings related to material and emotional security. But here's what's fascinating. The Ace of Pentacles in this context isn't about them starting fresh without you. It's about them finally understanding what they want to build and realizing that any meaningful foundation they create needs to involve making things right with you. The Ace of Pentacles represents opportunities for tangible change, and I'm getting that this person has been presented with chances to truly move on, to fully invest in someone new, to build something real elsewhere. But every time that opportunity presents itself, they're faced with the reality that their heart isn't available for that kind of investment. This card is showing me someone who has reached a point of brutal honesty with themselves. The Ace energy is always about potential and new starts, but this particular Ace is telling me they've realized that their potential for happiness, for building something meaningful, is still tied to you. Not in an unhealthy way, but in recognition that some connections are once in a lifetime. What's beautiful about the Ace of Pentacles here is that it represents the seed of something real and lasting. This person isn't just missing you because they're lonely or because the grass looks greener. They're recognizing that you represented the foundation they want to build their life on. You were their Ace of Pentacles originally, the beginning of everything they dreamed of creating. I'm getting such strong energy around this card about them wanting to plant new seeds, but only if those seeds can grow in soil that includes you. The Ace of Pentacles is practical. It's about real-world manifestation. And they're finally at the point where they understand that all their practical plans for the future feel hollow without you in them. The Five of Wands came through with such chaotic energy, and this card perfectly captures the internal battle this person has been fighting. The Five of Wands represents conflict, competition, and struggling to find your way forward when there are too many competing forces. This person has been at war with themselves over you, and it's been tearing them apart. What I'm seeing with this card is someone who has been fighting their own feelings, fighting the advice of people who tell them to move on, fighting against the reality of how much they miss you. The Five of Wands shows multiple figures in conflict, and that's exactly what's happening in their emotional landscape. Part of them wants to reach out. Part of them thinks they should stay away. Part of them believes they deserve to suffer. Part of them thinks they can win you back. This internal chaos has been exhausting for them, and the Five of Wands is showing me how this conflict has spilled over into other areas of their life. They're probably more argumentative than usual, more easily frustrated, because they're using all this mental and emotional energy fighting themselves over what to do about you. What's really profound about this card is that it also represents the need to find a way through the conflict. The Five of Wands isn't a permanent state. It's a process of working through competing energies to find clarity. This person has been in this chaotic space for so long, but the appearance of this card suggests they're finally ready to stop fighting themselves and choose a clear direction. I'm getting that the main source of their internal conflict is knowing they hurt you and not knowing if they've lost their chance forever. The Five of Wands shows me someone who wants to fight for you, but doesn't know if they have the right to step back into your life after what happened. They're battling between their desire to make things right and their fear that they've caused too much damage. Death appeared in your spread, and please don't worry because this isn't about physical death at all. The Death card represents transformation, endings, and rebirth. And in this context, it's showing me that this person has been through a complete death of who they were before they met you. They literally cannot go back to being the person they were before you entered their life. What's so powerful about the Death card here is that it represents irreversible change. This person tried to go back to their old patterns, their old ways of thinking about relationships and love, but it was impossible. You changed them at such a fundamental level that attempting to revert to their previous self has been like trying to fit into clothes that no longer exist. The Death card is showing me the death of their ability to be satisfied with superficial connections. You showed them what depth felt like, what it meant to be truly known and accepted, and now anything less than that level of intimacy feels like a betrayal of themselves. They've had to face the death of their old standards, their old willingness to settle. But here's what's beautiful about death energy. It's always followed by rebirth. This card is telling me that going through this experience of losing you has forced them to confront parts of themselves they never wanted to look at. They've had to face their own capacity for self-sabotage, their fear of true intimacy, their patterns of running from what they actually want. The transformation shown by the Death card has been painful but necessary. They needed to fully understand what they had and what they threw away in order to become someone worthy of having it back. Death clears away everything that isn't essential, and what's remained after this process is their pure, undeniable love for you and recognition of what you meant to their soul's evolution. The Two of Cups came through with such tender energy, and this card is all about soulmate connections and perfect emotional harmony. What's heartbreaking and beautiful about this card appearing here is that it's showing me this person's recognition that what you had together was the Two of Cups energy in its purest form. The Two of Cups represents that rare meeting of hearts where everything just flows naturally. No games, no pretense, just two souls recognizing each other and choosing to share their emotional truth. This person now understands that what you created together was this sacred exchange of authentic feeling, and they know they may never find that again. What's coming through so clearly with this card is how much they miss not just you as a person, but the version of themselves they became when they were with you. The Two of Cups energy brought out their capacity for vulnerability, for generosity of spirit, for believing in love as something magical, rather than something to be managed or controlled. They remember specific moments with you where the Two of Cups energy was so present it felt like the world stopped. Maybe it was a conversation that lasted all night, or a moment of perfect understanding, or the way you looked at each other and just knew you were home. These memories have become sacred to them, and they measure every interaction with every other person against that standard. The regret around the Two of Cups is so deep because this card represents conscious choice. The figures in this card are actively choosing to share their hearts with each other. This person knows now that when they walked away from you, they were walking away from the choice to keep creating that magical connection. They gave up their daily dose of Two of Cups energy, and nothing has filled that void. The World appeared as your 8th card, and this is such a significant card to appear in a reading about regret and lost love. The World represents completion, fulfillment, and achieving everything you've worked toward. What this card is telling me is that you represented their sense of completion, their feeling of having everything they needed to be truly happy. The World energy is about cycles coming full circle and reaching a state of wholeness. This person had that with you. They felt complete. They felt like they'd found their place in the universe. They felt like all the searching and growing and learning they'd done in their life had led them to you. And then they chose to leave that completion behind. What's so profound about the World card appearing here is that it shows me they understand now that you weren't just a relationship to them, you were their sense of home in the world. With you, they felt like they belonged somewhere, like they were part of something bigger than themselves, like they were exactly where they were supposed to be. The regret associated with the World is devastating because this card represents achievement and success in the deepest sense. They know they had everything they ever really wanted, not in terms of material success, but in terms of feeling fulfilled and purposeful and loved completely. The World shows me someone who touched heaven and then walked away from it. I'm getting such strong energy that this person lies awake at night sometimes just remembering what it felt like to feel that complete. The World energy is so expansive and joyful, and they know that level of happiness exists because they lived it with you. They're not wondering if they can be that happy again. They know they can because they have the blueprint. The question is whether they'll ever have the chance to rebuild that world with you. The Eight of Swords appeared as your 9th card, and this perfectly captures their current emotional state. The Eight of Swords represents feeling trapped, unable to see a way forward, bound by your own mental limitations. This person has created a prison out of their regret and their fear of facing the full truth of what they've lost. What's so tragic about the Eight of Swords energy is that the bondage is usually self-imposed. The figure in this card could remove the blindfold and untie themselves, but they're too afraid to see clearly or too convinced they don't deserve freedom. This person has bound themselves with thoughts of unworthiness, with fear that it's too late, with shame about the choices they made. The Eight of Swords shows me someone who has built walls of rationalization and excuse around themselves, but these walls have become a prison. They tell themselves they can't reach out because too much time has passed, or because you've probably moved on, or because they don't deserve forgiveness. But really, they're afraid to take the risk of finding out if love is still possible. What's fascinating about this card is that it often appears when someone is on the verge of breakthrough. The Eight of Swords represents the final stage of mental bondage before liberation. This person's prison of regret and self-punishment has become so uncomfortable that they're almost ready to do whatever it takes to free themselves. The swords around the figure in this card represent all the harsh thoughts and limiting beliefs they've been using to cut themselves off from hope. But here's what I know about Eight of Swords energy. It contains within itself the tools for its own liberation. Every thought that has been trapping them also holds the key to setting themselves free. Your final card is the Fool. And oh my goodness, this is such a perfect ending to this reading. The Fool represents new beginnings, taking leaps of faith and trusting in the universe to support you when you follow your heart. This card is telling me that this person is being called to take a massive leap of faith regarding you. The Fool energy is about throwing caution to the wind and betting everything on love. It's about setting aside all the logical reasons why something might not work and instead following the pure impulse of the heart. This person has spent so long being careful, being strategic, being afraid, and the Fool is showing me they're ready to be spontaneous and brave instead. What's beautiful about the Fool as your final card is that it represents infinite potential. This isn't about them trying to recreate what you had before. It's about them being willing to step into something completely new with you. They're ready to be beginners again in love, to learn everything fresh, to approach you with the wonder and openness of someone who has nothing to lose. The Fool also represents trust in divine timing. This person is starting to understand that maybe everything had to happen exactly as it did for them to become someone worthy of the love they want to offer you now. The Fool energy is about believing that it's never too late for a miracle, that love can resurrect what seemed dead, that two people who belong together will always find their way back to each other. I'm getting such strong energy that this person is preparing to take action. The Fool is the card of taking the first step on a new journey, and I feel like they're gathering the courage to reach out, to be vulnerable, to risk everything for the chance to make things right with you. The Fool doesn't guarantee outcomes, but it guarantees that the journey will transform everyone involved. What came through so clearly in this reading is that this person's regret isn't just about missing you. It's about recognizing that you represented their path to becoming their highest self. You weren't just someone they loved. You were someone who called forth the very best in them, who made them want to grow and evolve and become worthy of the kind of love you offered. The depth of their regret is matched only by the depth of their recognition of what you brought to their life. They understand now that some people enter our lives as catalysts, as teachers, as mirrors that show us who we could become. You were all of that for them, and losing you meant losing their clearest path to becoming the person they were meant to be. But here's what I want you to understand as we wrap up this reading. Their regret, as deep and real as it is, doesn't mean you have any obligation to them. It doesn't mean you should reach out or give them another chance or even feel sorry for them. This reading is about helping you understand the energetic reality of the situation, not about telling you what to do with that information. What I will say is this: the cards are showing me that this person's transformation through losing you has been profound and real. They're not the same person who made the choice to walk away from what you had together. Whether that matters for your future is entirely up to you to decide. The universe has been using their regret as a teaching tool, showing them the true value of authentic love, deep connection, and soul-level compatibility. They've learned lessons through losing you that they couldn't have learned any other way. But again, their education doesn't create any responsibility on your part. Trust your intuition about this situation. You'll know if and when it feels right to open any doors. You'll know if their energy has truly shifted or if they're still operating from the same patterns that created the original situation. The cards show me their regret is real, but only you can determine if that regret has translated into the kind of growth that would make a different outcome possible. What I know for certain is that you deserve to be with someone who recognizes your value from the beginning, who doesn't need to lose you to appreciate what they have, who shows up consistently and chooses you every day without hesitation. Whether that's this person in their evolved form or someone entirely new is something only time will reveal.